Today we are going to talk about R.K. Narayan and his novel The Guide. Now before I begin, let me tell you a bit about R.K. Narayan himself, his biographical details and his writings. So R.K. Narayan was born in Madras, South India, and educated there at Maharaja's College in Mysore. His first novel was Swami and Friends, and its successor The Bachelor of Arts. All these novels which he was writing, which I'm going to mention, are all set in the imaginary, fictitious territory called Malgudi. Now, other novels based in Malgudi are The Dark Room, The English Teacher, Mr. Sampath, The Man Eater of Malgudi, Financial Expert, The Painter of Science, Tiger for Malgudi, The Vendor of Sweets, Talkative Man. His novel The Guide, which was published in 1958, won him the National Prize of the Indian Literary Academy, this country's highest literary honor. He was awarded in 1980 the A.C. Benson Medal by the Royal Society of Literature, and in 1981 he was made an honorary member of the American Academy and Institute of Arts and Letters. There are 5 collections of short stories which he has written: A Horse and Two Goats, An Astrologer's Day and Other Stories, Lolly Road, Under the Banyan Tree, and Malgudi Days. He published a travel book called The Emerald Route, 3 collections of essays, A Writer's Nightmare, Next Sunday, and Reluctant Guru. Then there are 3 books which he wrote on Indian epics, apart from a volume of memoirs entitled My Days. Now, R.K. Narayan was a great writer of characters. He is praised for his art of characterization. He has created his characters with a lot of consideration, and all the characters are originals. And everyone that you see in his novels seems to be someone from around your own self. They are people who are commoners. They typify humanity. There are people like them in the whole of India. And it's not just people from Malgudi whom he has brought in his works. It is people who are found in the whole of India. Typical habits, typical way of talking, typical life style. So his characters are based on psychological treatment, you find. All his characters are real and lifelike, as I said, and definitely immortal characters. Like the character of Swami is someone to whom we can relate even today. Now, coming to this particular novel we talk about, The Guide. Now, The Guide, it begins on the outskirts of the quiet village of Malgudi, where there is a simple villager who is called Velan, and he mistakes Raju, who has just come out of jail and resting at the ruins of the temple near the river. He mistakes him as a holy man, and he discusses his problems with Raju, and Raju is least interested, but still, because he himself does not know what to do, he talks to him, gives him some very sane advice, and Velan is under the impression that he is definitely a very holy man. Raju is reminiscing about the time when he lived in Malgudi with his mother and father. He grew up at the train station. They had a shop. He remembers all these things. He remembers that he was called Railway Raju by the people out there, and he was a guide. He used to guide people. He loved talking to people. He loved to meet new people, and there was a comfortable life he had been having with his mother after his father's death, until the day that things changed with the coming of Marco and his wife Rosie. And after they came, Raju started having an affair with Rosie. Now, this Rosie was from the family of dancers. She loved dancing, but Marco, her husband, was very strict. He was against dancing, and he was a man who was interested in architecture, in old caves, and he was busy with that, and that is why he had come to Malgudi. And Raju is given the task of showing him around, and some space later he tells Raju to show Rosie around, And that's the time when Raju discovers Rosie's love for dancing. When he takes her to a snake charmer's hut to see the snake dance. And we find that Rosie herself is much interested in dancing but keeps herself away from it because Marco does not like it. And when Marco discovers the relationship between Raju and Rosie, he deserts his wife and goes back. And Rosie comes and starts living with Raju. And Raju's mother is highly disgusted. She goes away to live with her brother. And Raju takes all the trouble to make Rosie. He changes her name to Nalini. And he takes all the efforts to make her a great dancer. And they actually start earning well and living in a big house. And that's when he commits a forgery and he is caught by the police right in the middle of a dance performance. And is taken to jail, and 2 years he is put in prison. Now this Raju loves prison also, and he likes the lifestyle there because it's so regular. And he is released from prison because of his good behavior. And when he comes, that's the point where the novel starts, that he is sitting at the river, near the river on the temple front, and he is found by Velan. Now Velan takes him for a very religious man, and he tells him about the problem that his sister is not getting married, not ready to get married. And so he brings his sister to Raju, and Raju tells her what must happen must happen. No power on earth or in heaven can change its course, just as no one can change the course of that river. And Velan's sister is so mightily impressed that she goes back and agrees to getting married. And this is the change in the attitude of the villagers, and everybody starts rushing to Raju, thinking him to be a very religious man. And off and on, people come to him with problems, and Raju starts getting into the character. He starts talking in a very somber manner, and he starts saying profound things. And then famine strikes, and people are very disturbed, and they start fighting with each other. And Raju tells to Velan's brother that convey to the villagers that I will not eat until they stop fighting. And Velan's brother somewhere is confused, and he goes and tells to the villagers that Raju will not eat until the rains come. And that gets Raju into trouble. He never wanted to fast for the rains. And he seems very angry also with Velan for having put him in this trouble, but he just cannot help it. Why? Because all the villagers are rushing to him and folding their hands in front of him in the hope that he definitely can save them from this famine. And so Raju, initially unwillingly but later on willingly, gets into the character. He does the fast. His condition becomes quite bad, and on the 11th day, when the doctors tell that he will not live anymore, Raju gets up with the help of Velan and other of his friends, and he is taken to the river. And when he is there at the river, he says to Velan that, Velan, it's raining in the hills. I can feel it coming up under my feet, up my legs. And he sags down. Now when he sags down, Narayan has not told us that he died. He has not told us that he lived. He has just left it at that. Because it actually does not matter what happened later on. What matters is that a man who had committed a big fraud was now a totally changed character. He had converted himself and he had a cause to live for, and that's the best part of it. So we find, that Railway Raju, who was the protagonist of the story, he was born in Malguri, born in a lower middle class family, very smart, very savvy, loved talking, traveling. And the change comes with the coming of Rosie. Then he commits the forgery, lands himself in jail, meets Velan, becomes a sage, and then has a cause to live for. So if we try to write the character sketch of Raju, we must try to analyze him on these fronts, like Raju as the central figure of the novel. Then the complexity in his character, which we see, in the beginning, what he was. Here's his desire to always meet people, talk to people, be in the forefront, make himself indispensable. And then Raju the guide, who was guiding people to all sorts of places, telling them so much about it, making a living out of it, and loving the work of a guide more than that of a shopkeeper. Raju the lover, the man who loved Nalini or Rosie, and what he did for her. He changed her life. Although, he had his own greed also to satisfy, his need for money also to satisfy, but still, as a lover, he did a lot for her. Raju the prisoner, who was a model prisoner in the jail and who was doing things very right there, not causing any kind of problem. And Raju the Swami, who lays down his life for the rains which were not coming in Malgudi. Not Malgudi, I'm sorry, in that village where he was. The village was supposed to be miles away from Malgudi, where he had actually started living. Now the next important character is Rosie, and she is the one who changes the life of Raju. Now she is the heroine, definitely. She belongs to a family of dancers dedicated to temples. She is a woman of independent thought and ambition. She is a typical Indian woman because she loves her husband, dedicated to him, although her husband does not treat her very well. His attitude may be termed as apathetic because he does not care about her. She is a devoted wife. She is worried about him. When he is for days in the cave of Malgudi, she is worried what must Marco be doing. She has her desires. She wants to grow in life. She has her dreams to fulfill. She wants to do a lot in life. She's a very lively character. She loves to dance. She loves to roam around. But we find that because of Marco's dislike, she has kept herself in control. All her desires she had kept under control until the time she finally meets a man like Raju. She is completely devoted to dance, we find. She practices for 3 hours. Early in the morning, she would get up and practice for 3 hours. She was religious by nature because we find that she had an idol of Nataraj in her office, and she was devoted to goddess Saraswati. She was passionate by nature. She did not believe in class distinctions, that okay, I am rich, so I'm going to meet rich people. Like Raju used to tell her after she became rich that you should not go and mix with low class people. She always said, I don't believe in all these things. She was true to her lover to the end. Even though he defrauded, even though he committed forgery, she paid away all his debts. She started her life anew. She again started dancing. And nowhere do we find that Rosie did anything against Raju to cause any kind of problem to him. She was always devoted to Raju. That's the best thing we find about her. If we look at Marco again, he is a character who is very serious, studious, doesn't like to meet people. He is lost in ancient civilizations and he has a lot of passion for his work. He forgets the existence of Rosie, neglects her like anything. But he is very controlling and dominant by nature. Like, he was very clear about the fact that he does not like dancing and Rosie should not dance. He was very rigid and cruel, we can say, because we find that at the point where Rosie breaks it to him that she was having an affair with Raju and she asks for forgiveness, he does not forgive her. She keeps on going around him for 3 weeks, just like a dog, as she says herself, like a dog waiting for his affection. She kept on going around him, but he never once listened to her and did not forgive her. In the end, he told her to stay back and he had only one ticket and he leaves her and goes. But in the end, we find that when she has become a good dancer, Marco does attempt a reconciliation with her by sending his advocate to her. Apart from these main characters, there are several minor characters in the novel, like Raju's mother and uncle, Maloney, Mani, Joseph, Raju's lawyer, the Seth, Gafur. I hope you have understood the novel, and if you have any questions regarding this novel or any of the characters, You may write in the place provided below, and I will try my best to answer you and satisfy your queries. Thank you.